For today, we're going to hear from Russ Garcia, and he was my first teacher, as a matter of fact, and I think I was 16 at the time. I'm now 80. Russ, can you come up?
If I was teaching you you were 16 and you're now 80, what does that make me? Yeah. Well, if you have to know, I'm 91, but still working flat out all over the world. So music will keep you young. And I can tell you hundreds of stories. I've been around a while. He said some of them true. So I am the luckiest person on earth, I think. I've never worked in my life. I write music and they give me money for it, and it's still going on. I'm doing a CD with a girl jazz singer from New York City. She'll be coming out here this month. Yeah, next month. Yeah, July. And I'll be doing a CD with her out here. In fact, I think she'll sing in this club one evening. Her name is Shani Rainbolt. I don't know if you know of her, but anyway, she's quite good. Now, I've worked with so many wonderful people, and but you know, when I walked in today looking around, I was so happy to see a few people I knew, because when I look in the Union magazine, I don't like to look in it, because every time I open it, my friends are dropping off like flies. You know, I expect to open it one day and see my own name in there. And I don't know where to start. I've had the wonderful pleasure of working with so many wonderful artists, like the Oscar Petersons, George Shearings. Oscar is still going. He's still playing. His left hand isn't what it used to be. He plays some chords there, and he could play 8 times as much as anybody else with his right hand, though. And, talking about his left hand, I was recording him. We were using the Capitol Studios, and we were rehearsing, big orchestra. We're rehearsing, and he's in the middle of a jazz solo, and Nat Cole walked in the door, and Oscar shaking hands with Nat and carrying on a conversation. He continued his jazz solo with his left hand, and when he got to the end of the chorus, the whole orchestra applauded, and Oscar looked up like, what happened? So it's a shame he lost some of that left hand, but he's still playing like a demon. And George Shearing, I'm afraid, is through. He can't play anymore. It's so sad. But what are you going to do? But you writers, you can go on and on. My creativity, my mind seems musically working as well as it ever did, maybe better. I had to give up my trapeze act, of course, but yeah, but I'm so fortunate, still working all over the world. Mostly I'm working either arranging for symphonies. Symphonies are trying to get a younger image now and get a new audience, so they bring in a singer, from Vegas or someplace, and they need a lot of arrangements. And I live in New Zealand at the moment. When I'm home, I travel. I work in China. I work in Prague, Munich, Hollywood, wherever they offer me a few bucks, there I am. And I was just talking with my friend down here about problems, publishers and such. And I was telling him a story about Ira Gershwin. I can tell you several stories about Ira. I've done 2 CDs, sets of CDs, which have become kind of cult classics. I did one several years ago with a narrator for Bethlehem Records. I had to use all their jazz artists, and they used Francis Faye and Mel Torme and Johnny Hartman, all of their wonderful jazz blowers. They've become kind of cult classics. Ira hated these things. He didn't want anything different than George had written in his score. At MGM, when they made the film, Ira insisted everything had to be in those original keys. You know, Summertime starts as a lullaby. A little baby starts on an F sharp up at the top of the staff. Some of you know where that is. A lot of young arrangers don't now, you know. But nobody could sing their own parts in the movie. We had to call in Lily Jean Norman and Marnie Nixon and the studio singers to sing their parts for them. Sammy Davis was the only one that could sing. He did sport and Ira wouldn't even let them go on location. They had to build a set like the Broadway stage show and film that at MGM. Anyway, another story. When I think George would have loved what I did on that Bethlehem thing. It's become a cult classic. And, you know, when they said they had me fly back to New York and we're going to do Porgy and Bess, and they said, we're using Frances Faye and Mel Torme. I said, which one is Porgy? Because Frances is a big muscular girl and Mel is fairly small. And so George would have loved it. You know, we used a narrator that saw the story happening all the way through. So it has the excitement. I took fragments out of Gershwin's Porgy and Bess and wrote backgrounds for the thing. I did a lot of changing. I made quite more of a modern jazz thing out of it. George would have loved it, but Ira hated it. You know, once in Las Vegas, was it the Tropicana? No. One of the big hotels, maybe the Sands, had a big opening number. Opening night, they had used Rhapsody in Blue, about 12 minutes at least of it. There's 100 people on stage, you know, and volcanoes and waterfalls and all kinds of things. And they had used Rhapsody in Blue, or a good part of it. And Ira Gershwin was in the audience. He ran to the manager and said, if you don't have this out of the show, in 2 weeks I'm going to sue you for $4 million. And they said, what'll we do? So the band leader said, call Russ. And they're trying to get me on my telephone service in Hollywood. It was called Nina in those days, ancient history to some of you. But somebody said, you're trying to get Russ? He's across the street with Eleanor Powell's opening. And so they came and got me. And I had to write music that was the same tempos and the same lengths of everything. It couldn't sound like Rhapsody in Blue, but it had to be the same pattern and tempos and such, because you couldn't teach 100 chorus girls all new routines to new music. Anyway, in 2 weeks I had it ready. We called it the Rhapsody in Green. So I've had my experiences with Ira. Now, you know, I got to work with so many great people. Dizzy Gillespie I got to become very good friends with, too. I just mentioned George Shearing. You know, he's kind of out of it. You all know George. You're not that old. He's a blind English pianist, a fabulous jazz pianist. He's been blind since birth. We were backstage in Munich at a jazz festival, and Dizzy walks over to George and he puts his arm around him and he said, George, probably nobody ever told you, but you're black. Now, in music, jazz, that's a compliment. Now, but how would he know? He'd been blind all his life. And what other stories can I tell you? Oh, I work with Judy Garland a lot. Is Mort Lindsay still around? Great, I was hoping I'd see him here. No, he was Judy's piano conductor. And he'd get keys on a lot of things and routines, and he'd hire me to write the arrangements for the orchestra. And so I'd done loads and loads of things for Judy. And Mort was a good arranger himself, too. I'm not taking anything away from him. But she went in and caught, Judy Garland went in and caught Vic Damone's show one night. And she went backstage to compliment Vic at the end of the show. And she said, hey, wonderful arrangements. Who wrote these? And Vic said, Russ Garcia. And she said, I must get him to do some things for me. She didn't know a good share of her book I'd written. The arranger, Larry Russell's been gone for years, but I worked with Charlie Chaplin on the film Limelight, a wonderful film, and he's a genius. He's really wild. He picked out the two main themes with one finger on the piano. You know, da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. Beautiful melodies. Of course, he's not able to write these for the 65-piece orchestra to fit the timing and the moods of the scenes and such. So that's where I came in. Now, Ray Rash, I don't know if, I think he's gone, long gone. Boy, everybody is. You better not talk to me. It's contagious. But Ray Rash was his pianist, and they wanted to give Chaplin an Academy Award many years later because, Chaplin lived in Switzerland, made a trip back to England, and they wouldn't let him come back in the States because some stupid congressman said was part of the Communist Party or something. He didn't care about politics. He went to a communist meeting once when he was very young to find out a little bit about what it was, but he wasn't. They said he's earned all his money in America. He never become an American citizen, so they wouldn't let him come back. So he went and lived in Switzerland with his gorgeous young wife. Not a bad life. And they wanted to give him an award many years later, Academy Award. And he said, wait, somebody by the name of Russell worked with me on this film, and he should share this award. So they went to Ray Rash's house. I was in New Zealand then. And his wife said, I think it might have been Larry Russell. So they went to because Ray had died. And they went to Larry Russell's wife. Larry Russell had died. She said, yeah, I think he did it. So they gave the Academy Award to Charlie Chaplin and Larry Russell. And the next day, my phone in New Zealand had ringing all day long with people apologizing, people that knew who did the work. But anyway, I didn't want to kick up a big fuss, sour grapes, send letters to Variety and all that. So I just said, the hell with it. Award programs are a little bit of a farce now. There's so many of them. They should have an award show for the best award show, I think. But anyway, they are valuable. If you win one, it helps your price go up a little bit, I'm sure. Now, when I was a kid, when I'm going on too long, I can't see if anybody's fallen asleep, so get a big hook or something. And when I was a kid, I was so lucky. I was born in Oakland because I wanted to be near my mother. And don't laugh. It only gets worse. I was so shocked I didn't say a word for a year and a half. But I was so lucky. I went to a high school and we had two great music teachers there, Oakland Tech High. One played French horn with the San Francisco Symphony before, but he could play every instrument. Herman Trutner, Jr. He could play violin, flute, trumpet, everything. And he saw that I was so gung-ho when I was a young kid. I was the youngest kid in high school because they skipped me several grades when I was very, very young. I guess the schools were getting too full and they had to move me over. And so I was already writing arrangements, our little jazz band that we formed. And so he saw I was so gung-ho that he had me write. In this school, we had two concert orchestras, like little symphonies, and a concert band, a marching band, of course, and we kids formed a jazz band. And he had me write compositions for the orchestra. He had me conduct my own things. He went through my scores and helped me with everything I wrote. And another teacher taught me harmony and counterpoint. Imagine in high school getting all of this. So I had a pretty thorough foundation by the time I got out of high school and went to San Francisco State. At that time, the teachers had learned out of the books there, and they were teaching out of them. They couldn't write arrangements or compositions, and I was already a professional, playing in the San Francisco hotels and writing for the bands and such. So after a year, I quit and went on the road with bands. That was a great era. Big bands were coming into their own. Such a joy to sometimes I'd play fourth trumpet in the band, but they always wanted me in the band because I could write a good arrangement. So I got to